I work for an organization called SERVI. It's actually Solar System Exploration Research Virtual Institute. We studied the moons of Mars and asteroids. That's our target, but we fully NASA funded. And, uh, and so this is our first target. It's a stable platform. If you think about Antarctica having scientific areas that countries will have research centers, the moon is going to be the same way in the beginning. It's going to be a place where international people could go and research. But Earth is finite in its resources, and we're running out of them. Based on how we use lithium and all these other rare materials, we're going through them really fast. And if we want to continue in the speed that we are going with technology and changing the way we live, we're going to need access to space where we have unlimited resources. And so this is the challenge. We have over 70 missions around the world trying to get to that moon that you see back there. And it's a competition, if you will, because who gets to the resource first? There's only a certain amount of areas on that pole that has sunlight all the time. And if we're going to have power, we need solar power. But because some of the areas get super dark and super cold, just so you know, between the shadow and sunlight is 500 degrees difference. So any spacecraft that goes into the darkness will freeze and be no longer useful. So we need to have a way to keep those spacecraft alive. So we want to then be able to teach those mountains. Anyway, it's going to be, there's not much of it, and it's really, really expensive real estate, if you will. So if you want to have a spacecraft, you're going to go moving to the moon, you want to have a spot on the top where you always have sunlight, and you want to have exposure to that ice. So in your lifetime, you're probably going to see this happen, but it's a new race for basically space resources.
Definitely. And speaking of the race and getting to the moon and getting more involvement in space exploration, Kimberly, can you tell us more sort of how does these commercial entities play into this new way of space exploration?
Well, I mean, everyone's heard of SpaceX, I'm sure. If you haven't, raise your hand. Well, SpaceX is one of the very small companies that actually, proposed to a solicitation through NASA's Small Business Innovation Research Grant Program. It's available to anyone, not just U.S. citizens, but across the world. And so, as these companies find out that there's a need, NASA puts out like all these different solicitations. They'll say, we need this action, or we have a problem with this scenario or project, and we need someone to propose a solution to us. And if you have the right criteria, and if you've actually proposed something that we think we might actually use, there are seed funding that would come to you because you've been awarded a contract. So, small businesses are where we really look to a lot of innovative opportunities. We're America's Seed Fund, right? So we're trying to help get you off the ground, literally and figuratively. Many people think about, NASA's space exploration only, but we have so many other opportunities, even citizen science in the marine and, science industry. So marine life is very important to us. We have over 36 satellites orbiting the Earth right now, looking down on Earth to measure the salinity in the oceans, understand gravitational pull from the moon, understand Earth sea level rise. There's so many climate change data centers that are getting information from these satellites. And so we're not just space, we're really everything in between, aviation, how we fly better, cheaper, faster planes, fuel efficient planes, safer planes, to the ocean, the depths of the ocean. Here in the coral reef, beautiful paradise we live in. We have a whole team of scientists looking to improve the health of the coral reefs, and you can be a part of it. There's an app for that, right? So the partnerships that we create are really about making sure we're stirring the economy, providing jobs, and encouraging the youth in our communities to be a part of our science, technology, engineering, and math studies. You guys have a robotics club at some of the schools, and we're super excited about it because we can't send people to Mars right now, but we can certainly send robots to Mars. We need those robotic engineers to be a part of it. They can work with us early on in their high school years. internships. So there's a whole lot of really amazing ways you can be involved. And it will lead to a partnership if you're a small business even, and we can help you get there.
Now, AI is a hot topic right now. Obviously, we're in Anguilla, the land of .ai. But Dr. Frank, can you tell us a little bit about how AI or artificial intelligence has helped some of the work that you've done as far as exploring the cosmos for life?
We've been using AI for quite a while. In fact, we realized this week that Kimberly and I, we met in 2016 when SETI Institute started the first program to match computer scientists in AI with agencies, space agencies. It's called the Frontier Development Lab. We started that way before anybody else. So, right now, at the SETI Institute, we're using AI, of course, quite often. Something we do at the Unistellar, for instance, something I didn't mention, is that people can do citizen science, meaning they can observe comets, asteroid flybying, they can observe occultations, etc. So we get a lot of data coming from those telescopes around the world. There are more than 15,000 so far. There is 2,600 active citizen scientists in the network. So that's a lot of data. So we have to use AI to basically process those data and make sure that we don't spend time processing things which will not lead to scientific results. So we've been using AI for this in our servers, continuously analyzing this data. But at large, the SETI Institute has been using AI to also fix one of the big problems we have in radio. So in radio, as you probably know, we listen to a lot of frequency at the same time. So that's means that every night at the ATA, our telescopes, radio telescope, we get more than 200 terabytes of data to process. What happened is that in the past, scientists were storing the data and then hoping for the best, hoping that some students would basically analyze the data and do and reveal or not the presence of these techno signatures. This happened in 2020 when Peter Ma wrote a code and analyzed the data from the Park telescopes, which were taken in 2007, so a long time ago, and detected using his AI algorithm the presence of 8 signals coming from 5 planetary systems. They did not reveal themselves, so we cannot claim that we have discovered aliens, even though this was very interesting signatures. And this is an interesting work because now they plug a similar algorithm into all our search engines. So we are now a system that can reveal whether or not there is a signal, potential techno signal in less than 1 hour at the telescope. So this will not happen, meaning that when we observe 1 hour later, we know whether or not there is a techno signatures.
We don't have to wait from 2007.
Yes, we will not have to wait for a smart student to find this.
That's amazing. Speaking of smart students, Joseph, in your experience as an innovator, what advice would you give to some of the young people in Anguilla who aspire to work in space science? And what steps can they take to prepare in this field?
Sure. Well, if I was to give advice to my younger self, it would be to be prepared for the job or the dream that I have. So if for some reason I was inspired, in my case I was inspired to walk on the moon, well, you want to find out what it takes to do that. Fortunately for all of us, there are people ahead of us that have been doing the jobs that we're inspired to do. So, what I say is, luck is being prepared for the opportunity. So the idea that you would pretend that you have the job today, what would it take for you to be successful at it? You should learn, or at least put yourself in the position of learning everything it takes to be the best at that job. Because you will make micro decisions toward that job all your life, whether you know it or not subconsciously. As long as you have the dream in the back of your head, given a choice to be either in Florida to go to school or somewhere else in the UK, you might be like, oh, well, I'm going to go to Florida because that's where the space agency is. You're going to make these micro decisions you don't even know you're making, and 10 years from now, you'll actually have the job, you'll manifest it. So, but the idea is that you want to be prepared, and you want to be over-prepared, because here's the really cool thing about it. Those skills are useful in everything you do. So the idea that you would be good in math, you don't know and you don't care or whatever, but the idea when you first use math to actually solve a problem, you save yourself 8 hours of struggle to do it. Otherwise, you realize the power of having that capability. Being a musician, that's math out loud. So essentially musicians are really good at math, they just don't know it yet maybe. But the idea is, as a musician, you're probably a genius at math and you don't know it. So all I'm saying is follow your dream, no matter what it is. Try to be as capable as possible to do the job that you think you want to do. And no matter what job you in, you will be happy.
Thank you so much. Great advice. Now, a lot of those jobs and opportunities, especially now with startups. Kimberly, can you tell us a little bit about how NASA supports startups and how does that build a sustainable ecosystem for space exploration?
Yeah, sure. So startups are basically a founder who wants to be an entrepreneurial company owner, and a lot of times you don't have a full capable staff or a whole team of software engineers or even a facility. You might be working out of your garage or a bedroom. Many times in Silicon Valley, that's the story everybody starts with. Apple, for instance, those of you who have Apple phones, Steve Jobs was working out of his garage. And here we are with Apple phones, I mean, it's insane, right? So startups are very important to NASA because we know they're the little guys, they need help. And so like I mentioned earlier about the Small Business Innovation Research Grant, it's for startup companies. You don't even have to have a team. You could be a one-man band, one-woman band. It's also really geared toward minority owners, business owners, and women-owned businesses because we know they don't always have the same advantages as a huge company like Intel or other companies that we know of. So we try to look to them and help them. We have license opportunities. We have a whole startup license where a company might be interested in a technology that we have on our portfolio, and it's all free online to look at, by the way, technology.nasa.gov. You can look at patents where you have a need and you're trying to figure out how can I fill that need. NASA is like the gap filler sometimes for companies that are startups. So we created a whole license application just for startups. And it gives them 3 full years to test out, kick the tires on the technology, and then if they make a profit in 3 years, they give us a small little, royalty for it, just to give our inventors some incentive to keep innovating. But also, if they don't make a profit, then they just have a very nominal base level fixed rate, fee. And we're not here to make money. Usually NASA is kind of like it's a nonprofit, if you will. We've already spent the investment trying to innovate for our missions, and now by congressional mandate, we really have to give back. So we look to startups as a very great way to start that. And so there's many resources I can talk to you guys offline, but as we said, NASA offline, because we're always online. But I'm happy to talk to you if you have a startup and you want to know how to get involved.
Wonderful. Now, Dr. Frank, for someone like Maliohana, when natural beauty meets the night sky, what are some of the most captivating celestial phenomena that we can hope to see with the Unistellar telescope?
We can see.
This is a new one, yes.
So, in the winter, the most beautiful object is the white nebula. Okay. Nebulae are basically typically some area, nurseries of stars, basically. There's an area where stars are born. Now, you have different kinds of nebulae called nebulae, which is nuclearies of stars, so star which is dying. We are going to be able to, because you're on an island, you're not contaminated by a lot of light pollution. We are going to be able to observe the galaxies as well.
I don't know, dude.
really visible. And you can see the spiral arms of the galaxy. You can see but the extension of the galaxy as well. So this is something that captivated people because every time someone watches Galaxy, they need to realize that they're observing something which is a million light years away from us. So that's that the image they see is an image that was produced a million years ago, when there was probably no yet human sapiens on the surface of this planet. And what's something I like, personally, when I look at Galaxy or watch Galaxy, is that I'm thinking that there's probably an aliens there, technological civilization. We really spend our life also. They probably are looking at us.
Well, you mentioned also detecting LED light, right? What does that mean in the greater search of things?
So that's something we cannot do with the Stellar telescope, but that's something we are planning to do with the future space-based telescopes. Multiple world observatory, which is a telescope that will be launched in the best case scenario in 2045. As they're putting together right now the technology to build and deploy an Anguilla telescope, which is basically a 12 to 15 meter aperture telescopes in open space. Will be equipped with these cutting-edge, advanced optical devices that I mentioned, so they can see very small body in orbitable bright objects. Planets are 10 billion stars fainter than stars. So the comparison we give often, sorry, I should think about the comparison for this silent, but it's like observing a lighthouse from San Francisco, the lighthouse in New York City from San Francisco, and trying to look at the firefly flying nearby the lighthouse.
Wow.
So this is the telescope we're trying to solve.
That's for a sun to a planet.
To detect the planet in orbit around another star. So we need super good optics. We need to get rid of all these vibrations and temperature, have the perfect Polish mirror, etc. It's really expensive, it takes a lot of time, but we do have the technology to do that now. Training our engineers to run through this. So we are going to launch the first prototype of this instrument in 2 years, and in 2014 we're going to launch this habitable world observatory. You will be able to observe exoplanet like Earth and detect 350 of them. That's what integrate us. And hopefully see if there is biosphere on these planets. There is zero effects. There is life, natural life, more complex life, such as life of cities. And there is a paper that was published recently that showed that we will be able to see life of cities on this exoplanet.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And that's not that far into the future when you think about the big scheme of things, right? 15, 20 years away.
15, 20 years.
Guys, seriously. Now, we've spoken about the different asteroids and comets a little bit, and meteorites, which we'll be seeing very shortly. That is a comet, is that right, that we see there? Can you, maybe Joseph, tell us a little bit about exploring asteroids and how we know what a comet is versus an asteroid?
Sure. So behind you is an asteroid that's in the sky right now. It's actually leaving our solar system. Yeah. Which one? It's a comet. I'm sorry. I don't know.
Get your rocks straight, Jeff.
Get my rocks straight. It's a comet. I'm sorry, but it is leaving our solar system now. So earlier it came in the year, and so it's getting fainter. But that is actually being seen by that telescope right now. It's a little too faint for you to see with the naked eye. And it's basically ice. It's dirty ice. So it comes from way beyond Pluto. And there's an area beyond Pluto that has a whole bunch of these ice comets. And they periodically come around the sun. And in this case, the last time this came, was it 80,000 years ago?
Yes. The name of this comet is C2023 A3 Tucson.
Yeah, so the difference between a comet and
to remember.
Yeah, it's easy to remember. It's basically the people who founded it and where they found it. so it's fine. But asteroids are basically rocks, and this is ice, and it's coming from far away, and it literally goes around the sun and it leaves our solar system. So it won't be back for a long time, so you get to observe it tonight.
Yeah, so when you watch a comet, you see the activity of the comet. So you see the tail, the comet. The tail is basically particles of dust particles which is being expelled from the comet, from the nucleus, which is made of ice, as you mentioned, and it's warmed up by the sun. So the closest comet to the sun to us, the Earth. So this one, we predicted in April it will be extremely bright. In fact, I love it, because we have it to bright comet. Some people watched it and saw it naked eyes in October.
We saw it
We
from
saw it in our backyard in California.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you mentioned something interesting in one of our discussions about how we may have water here on Earth.
Yes, so we believe that comets and distant asteroids are in fact the one that brought water. This happened a long time ago, it's a billion years ago. That's what we call the late heavy bombardment. Yes, something happened in the solar system. I don't want to go into the detail of the dynamics, but basically a catastrophic event happened between Jupiter and Saturn. This destabilized the planetesimals, comets, and asteroids from Earth. A lot of them went into the particle solar system, and they brought with them water. So when you drink water, anything with liquid in it, basically you're drinking some
Space juice.
some space juice, yes. Water coming from space.
That's incredible. What an amazing fact. We have a question that just came up from the crowd actually. So, if comets are made of ice and they're being exposed to the solar radiation around the sun, why is it that they're not melting?
Stump lifter right there.
So, it's a very large body, and space is very cold. Earlier I told you it's about 500 degrees between the shadow and sun. So it's coming from deep outside of our solar system, and there's an area that's still controlled by our sun. Our sun is a giant magnet, actually, and so it has these, when you have the north and south pole of a magnet, you have these giant invisible rays, and it goes beyond, those rays go well beyond Pluto, which, by the way, Pluto is a planet. I know somebody had a question about Pluto, a little girl, I didn't know she was And Pluto is a planet, it's just a dwarf planet. And one reason we call it a dwarf planet is because it's smaller than our moon, and beyond it we found other planets, if you will, if we were going to use the same definition. So we'd have to increase how many planets were going around our sun, just to answer her question that she had earlier. But essentially,
So essentially, a comet is typically 10 to 20 kilometers in diameter. Space is extremely cold. We're talking about temperature close to 5 and 10 degrees. Minus 230. Let's keep the numbers. So when a comet comes close to the sun, it's being warmed up by the sun. It's only a small part, the whole is illuminated phase. So that's the reason the comet is illuminated. It's like an ice cube coming and warm up only on one side. So it's slightly already, but then illuminated phase very quickly.
and it leaves a trail behind it.
And that's what the comet's tail is.
Well, and not only does it become a tail, it actually leaves a trail of dust. And the Earth, if it crosses Earth's path, Earth will actually go through that, and that material falls there as well. So we have about 100 tons of material that falls to Earth every day. It spins around and goes through around the sun. And not only does it do that, the moon actually is kind of like a windshield, right? Where it kind of goes around.
For people who got
but there is quite a bit
This
of
level,
clears away for us. It clears away for us. And so actually, if you have, we have a program in the United States where if you take a magnet and go through the gutters in your house, you may actually be able to get magnetic material that is actually meteoritic dust that basically falls to Earth. So there's quite a bit that falls to Earth every day.
Wow. That's a lot of
Just
material.
from time.
We need to check out that here too.
I'm sorry, I just learned this tonight.
So,
Yeah, he has somebody who-
Kimberly, could you share with us maybe some of the trends that you're seeing, in
First,
this,
to step on the man.
as we
So you
continue
had
to look
somebody
at
else
driving
who
space
captured with him.
exploration?
So
What are some
he
of
could have taken a
the
picture of him
trends
on the
in
moon.
these different collaborations that
I
you see?
don't know if you've heard about it, but
So he could be
it's
inside
so big
inside the
area,
capsule doing
California,
it.
self-driving cars. Right? You get in a taxi here, there's a person driving you
He might have been
around.
the first man on the
Not in
road.
California,
Walk
we
over, the
have
other guy can't. Go
self-driving cars, like there's no driver, and you get in, you go, oh my god, this is like a sci-fi
Yeah, so
movie.
first.
It's kind of
So
scary
he's
and
the
cool
first
at the
man
same
on the
time.
Then
And it's
the
like
other man
Siri's
gets stuck.
talking to you in the car,
Then
please
the
don't
other man
use the
says,
car.
okay,
Oh, you will not
take
be
the
able to
picture.
car. And you're like, what is happening right now? Those technology innovations come out of massive aims. And a lot of the collaborations and partnership agreements that I have seen in the last just 3 to 4 months right now have been autonomous robotic system software and technology, and our scientists and robotic engineers are working with industry to make that happen. We have a lot
Yeah,
of
first step on it.
small businesses are working with it, but also big businesses too. Google has a whole company that's got a fleet of self-driving vehicles running around San Francisco at like 10 p.m. and they pick up all the drunk people. I know it's crazy, but it's true. And they're like these cute little white little SUVs that come in and pick you up and take you where you're going, and they thank you for driving and riding with them.
And he becomes the
But it's
first
a real
man to
thing.
step
We're
on the
really
moon.
trying to utilize these technologies because they're already in our small little systems and our phones. Maybe you might have, maybe thought AI is new, but it's been around forever, to be
The
honest.
other man
Making life easier, making it more autonomous, making it more of an assistance to your everyday life tasks. So, that's the trend. We get a lot of companies who want to get the know-how. They come to NASA. They're looking for drone technology. Air traffic control is not just for airplanes anymore. It's for drone technology now. Unmanned air vehicles is what we typically call them at NASA. But that aviation traffic management system is utilized on a daily basis. And we have a lot of companies who are looking to us to collaborate and inspire their business plans. A lot of crazy new tech is about to happen.
Just
But don't forget,
self-driving cars, what's really interesting is when we're on the
there
moon,
before.
we've been solving this problem of autonomous vehicles driving in high contrast areas for a long time. And so basically in the evening when we're done, we put a lock up and walk away, but we tell the rover to go from spot A where it is to spot B, and hopefully in the morning it's there. And so this machine has been taught to autonomously look at a very high contrast environment because again, it has a thin atmosphere, so when the light goes in, now when you look into a shadow here on Earth, you can actually, with a camera, if you take a picture, you can change the histogram and get an idea. You can actually see the detail in those shadows. But on the moon, you can't see that. It's super high contrast, black and white. What's really wild is when the sun is really at a low oblique angle, you get these solar glares, sun glares into the lens. So a computer doesn't know what it's seeing. And so when we found the self-driving cars, if the sun hits a white truck and reflects into the lens, it sends a null message, if you will, or there's nothing there message. And it will accelerate the car and basically crash into the truck. Well, it so happens that that's a problem that many companies, self-driving car companies are having. And they looked into, somehow they found out that NASA solved this problem with our rovers, and they're able to license that technology. They didn't know to look for it before. The problem had to occur, and then they didn't know and was researching to see if anybody solved that problem. And we did solve that problem. So essentially the work in my lab is now working in self-driving cars, and actually it's a new place for us to get funding, which is really kind of cool, because we were solving a problem. This is again, space allows a constraint. Places, things we take for granted on Earth, allows us to innovate in ways that we would never ever even think of if we were just trying to solve a problem here.
That's amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Joe, for self-driving cars.
Indeed, and for Zoom and Teams.
I think he invented all the stuff we're talking about here.
So we're gonna start wrapping up here very shortly. We have a wonderful performance from Omari Banks starting at 7 p.m. But we're gonna have an opportunity for for you to interact with our wonderful panel of experts here as well. Dr. Frank will be behind the tent here, setting up the Unistellar telescope, and Joseph will have his meteorites near the pool table inside the restaurant there. But just lastly, I have a couple of questions here that were given to me before we started. So, what is the composition of a star? Please.
So a star is mostly made of hydrogen. It is the most common atomic. But you find some other things, of course, especially because stars.
Isha, come.
Stars, the star we see now
Can you call Deepi auntie here, please? She's right there. Can you call her to come here, please?
almost full of hydrogen at 99%. But then they die, and when they die, some of them die in this very catastrophic explosion of supernova. They create different atoms. And those atoms basically are mixed with hydrogen. And the second generation of star. And this second generation of star have different type of atoms. So something which is very cool is that if you look at our solar system, we know by looking at the ratio of composition of different atoms that we are coming from a star that would die 8.2 billion years ago. And if the star not die 8.2 billion years ago, you will not be here because you are made of stars. You atoms, you heavy atoms, myself too. Our heavy atoms are carbon, sulfur, oxygen, all of these are produced mostly in stars.
పొద్దున్న ఆర్డర్ ఇచ్చుకోరు ఇద్దరికి
This second generation of
నేను లైవ్లో ఉన్నా నాకు కుదరదు చూసి అక్కడ వెళ్ళి ఆర్డర్ చేసి తర్వాత ఏంటి ఇక్కడ ఇస్తే గంట అవుతుంది తర్వాత అంటే వాళ్ళు రాత్రి ఏదో మస్తు జాగాలు ఉన్నాయి ఏదో చూడవచ్చు లోపల కాలేదు ఫస్ట్ ఫుడ్ అయితే అడిగి ఆర్డర్ ఇచ్చుకోవాలి
You are made of stars. So.
ఆ పిల్లని అడుగు ఒకసారి అదే ఇదే తింటారా ఏదో
We have another question here.
వాళ్ళు ఉంటే ఉండని
is,
ఫస్ట్ ఆ పిల్లని అడుగు
mentioned
నేను
dinosaurs
ఎక్కడ
by
అడిగిపోయి
Joseph.
ఇన్ని తీసుకుంటున్నాను
If the dinosaurs are extinct here, is it possible that
అడుగుపో ఒకసారి
there's still life somewhere
పిల్లు
else?
కాదు ఒకసారి పోయి అడుగు అని అంటున్నాను
There could be all kinds of different life. When you look at life on Earth, I mean, it is so diverse.
That's
On
enough.
Earth. You look, the majority of life on Earth are insects. You can see nature's solution to traveling across the surface is with multiple legs, 8, 6. Kind of interesting thing. So, these are solutions by design based on the environment. And so, depending on the environment where life starts,
అదే వెళ్దామంటే వెళ్దాం లేదు అని అంటే
the diversity of
అట్లా
life
చెప్పు
is
శశికి చెప్పు మరి
so much more than it is on the surface, and there's a lot we don't know about it. We learn about it all the time. So we're going to go to these, if we ever do find life somewhere else, it's going to be based on that environment that it was resurrected. Yeah, it could be. There could be dinosaurs. Dinosaurs were big because there was a lot of oxygen in our environment, and there's less oxygen now, so we wouldn't really necessarily be able to handle the size species. Dragonflies used to be over a foot long.
So they will not be called dinosaurs if they are on another planet. They will be called exo-dinosaurs.
Exo.
Because everything which is not on Earth is exoplanet, exodinosaur.
Only by us here on Earth, but there they'll be called dinosaurs.
It's like Italian food in Italy is not Italian food.
Yeah,
It's just
It's
food.
just food.
Just to clarify,
Everything's going on.
dinosaurs are our dinosaurs. dinosaurs are not coming from our bodies.
Good to know. Thank you so much. So we're going to wrap up here, and I'm going to ask a final question of all of you. If there is a lasting thought of the importance of space exploration and what you would like to share on that topic.
Yeah, actually, so exploring space allows us to solve problems we would never try to solve here. And so it pushes us a little bit to understand those environments. What's really awesome is that we invent things that have huge application here on Earth that we would never ever dream of doing. And so one example, just one, because there's so many, would be water. It takes about $400,000 to get a gallon of water off Earth in today's price. And so we're not going to send 1 gallon, we're going to send a lot more than that. If we're going to send humans, we're going to need a lot of sustainable water to drink, but we also need it for our rocket fuel. We also need it to protect us, maybe for radiation protection as well. But we're not going to bring it with us because it's so expensive and hard to get off the planet. There's so much water out in space, we're going to try to extract it there. Here, if we wanted to get water, you have an ocean, you can take out the saline and you can clean it so much easier. But the expense of squeezing it out of the dirt in front of you, just getting that hydrogen and oxygen and figuring out how to do that, in space, that's the cheapest way to do it. Now we can go to the driest deserts on Earth and actually extract water either from the air or from the soil that are there. So that's just one example, but we can, again, space is a constraint that allows us to make huge innovations that benefit us.
I just have a website I encourage all of you to write down right now. Take your phone out. I'm serious, I want to see some iPhones and Android phones, Samsung, all y'all. Go to homeandcity.nasa.gov. You will find out, as Joe just mentioned, all the constraints of space mission projects have allowed us to be innovative wheelhouses, where we can really crank out some amazing technologies that we use in your everyday home and everyday city. It is a wonderful app. It's an interactive, it looks cartoony, but we're trying to reach the general public. But I'm telling you, you're going to walk through your home tonight, you're going to go, oh my gosh, this OLED TV or this iPhone that I'm carrying around in my hand has technologies out of NASA, because you have to really think about where these technologies are being commercialized and how the companies are making them consumer products. From Tempur-Pedic mattresses and shoes and helmets and all that good stuff, to battery-operated wireless drills, to your LASIK or braces. I'm just saying, we're everywhere. And what I love about it is you're drinking fresh water that came out of NASA technology to make sure we had a refreshing, repurposed water source on the space station. I'm just going to say refreshing. That's all I'm going to do. But it's homeandcity.nasa.gov. You will be amazed.
So, in my case, I believe in the development of an economy in space. Space is going to be part of humanity very quickly. I mean, right now, we're just entering into this moment where we can send huge rockets, we can send gigantic space telescopes, the next step is stations, hotels. We are going to live in space. The young generations coming behind us right now, they are going to be in space. And not only is coming because they will be older, but there will be the one who will be working in space hotels, and the one who will basically go to explore the solar system. What is very important is that with the development of access to space, scientists will take advantage of that to build those space telescopes that I mentioned, with major discoveries. And the most important discovery that will happen in the next 10 to 15 years is, in my mind, the discovery of another intelligence. We are going to find life elsewhere. I'm very convinced about that. I would not be doing this job if I was not. That's the motivation, of course. I'm a scientist, I need to prove that they exist by building those instruments that will one day give an image of a planet like Earth, with hopefully a biosphere, hopefully a signature of techno-signatures on this planet. And when we will find those aliens, and we know that they exist, and we have the solving problems, how are we going to go there, and what we're going to tell them. And this is something that we already started thinking about. We already thinking about what kind of message we should send in this space to tell extraterrestrial intelligence that we were here, and hopefully get a message back. And this message
Leon,
back
how
tell
are
us
you?
about the
I'm
future.
still waiting for you, you know. We're practicing tomorrow, but
Because I wanted to go a lot of times, but
you want to?
I wanted to go a lot of times, but you know,
That's
I've been
the
busy than
nebula, and that's basically the last evolution of star-like ourselves. This is our future in 4.2 billion years. The sun will basically, after the giant space, expand the envelope, it will reach the orbit of Jupiter. The center will have a white dwarf. If we had not yet developed technology faster than light of a way to go outside of our solar system, we will be done as a species. So that's one of the reasons.
We've got a bit of time though. 4.2
How long do we have though? 'Cause I didn't hear.
4.2 billion.
Thank you.
4.2 billion.
On a positive note, yes. So my motivation is that one day we are going to be an interplanetary and intergalactic species.
Fantastic.
I want to be the astronomer.
That is inspirational. Thank you. Well, I just want to say thank you again to a wonderful panel of experts. Please round of applause for our panel of experts here tonight for sharing their time with us here this evening at Leon's, but also visiting the schools around Anguilla over the past few days. As I mentioned earlier, we are going to have an opportunity for you to interact with them, ask them questions, have a look through the telescope behind the tent here, and join Joe up on the pool table behind the TV or in the restaurant. Yes, in the restaurant.
Hello,
to,
guys. How are you?
how are you?
What's up? Good. Yes, how are you? What's up, brother? Hello. Nice to see you guys. Good so far. Yeah.
We appreciate all of your time.
How are you
Please
guys?
enjoy the
All
wonderful
good?
menu
All right, good
and
to see you guys.
amazing drinks and service
Enjoy your dinner,
for
okay?
the rest of the evening. Thank you all. Have a wonderful night.
Hello. Hello. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. ఎస్ టెలిస్కోప్ అది వెళ్ళండి చూడండి ఇదండి రైట్ దిస్ ఇస్ ద టెలిస్కోప్ ఇది టెలిస్కోప్ సెటప్ చేశారు ఇక్కడ దట్ దే కెన్ వాచ్ ఇట్ హలో బేబీ